Chapter 11, Waitress of the Year. The era of peace and quiet at Mel's Diner lasted for a glorious 2 weeks. It was a time of unprecedented calm where the biggest crisis was running out of strawberry jam. But a diner like nature abhors a vacuum, and the void of drama was about to be filled by a new and insidious threat, friendly competition. Once again, Earl was the harbinger. He slid into his counter stool one morning, not with a magazine of doom, but with the local newspaper folded open to a full-page ad. Behold, he announced, the Phoenix Chronicle's first annual Waitress of the Year contest. The contest was simple. Diners across the city were encouraged to nominate their favorite waitress. The winner would receive a plaque, a $500 cash prize, and a feature article in the paper. Vera's eyes lit up with the fire of 1,000 suns. Oh, a contest! How exciting! We should all enter. I don't know, Jolene said with a laugh. Seems a little silly, don't you think? It's ridiculous, Alice stated flatly. I have a son to raise and 2 jobs. I don't have time to compete for a plaque. But then Mel saw the ad. The words feature article seemed to leap off the page and flash before his eyes like a neon sign blinking free advertising. You're all entering, he declared, his voice leaving no room for argument. It's a statistical necessity. 3 entries give us 3 times the chance of getting this diner's name in the paper. This is a team effort. Now get out there and be prizeworthy. And so the games began. To be officially nominated, each waitress had to collect at least 20 positive comment cards from customers. A friendly rivalry quickly took root and began to grow into something far more competitive. Vera's approach was one of earnest theatrical flair. She began presenting customers with their checks by performing a dramatic curtsy. She attempted to write "thank you" in ketchup on the side of a hamburger plate, which ended up looking like an abstract edible crime scene. Her comment cards were few, but they were certainly memorable, with comments like, "The waitress was very enthusiastic if a bit messy." Jolene, after her initial reluctance, discovered that her competitive softball spirit translated perfectly to the art of service. She weaponized her southern charm, calling every man sugar or darling and every woman honey child. Her sweet talk and batting eyelashes were devastatingly effective. Comment cards flowed into her apron pocket like a mighty river. Alice simply did her job. She was efficient, she was kind, she remembered the regulars' orders, and she had a knack for saying the right thing to a customer having a bad day. She didn't ask for cards, but she received them anyway from patrons grateful for her quiet competence. Soon the friendly competition began to fray at the edges. Jolene, counting her massive stack of cards, made a casual comment about how some people try a little too hard. Vera, overhearing this, burst into tears in the storeroom, convinced her ketchup art was being mocked. Alice, caught in the middle, felt the diner's warm, familial atmosphere being replaced by a tense, polite frostiness. The low point came during a busy lunch rush. Vera and Jolene, not speaking to each other, both tried to grab the last clean coffee pot at the same time. A brief, silent tug-of-war ensued, ending with the pot slipping and shattering on the floor. "That's it," Mel yelled from the kitchen. "I can't take any more of this. This contest was supposed to help the diner not turn it into a battlefield. The whole thing is off." That afternoon, Alice called a meeting in a corner booth. "Okay, look at us," she said, her voice firm. "We're fighting over comment cards. We're breaking coffee pots." Vera is crying, Jolene is sharpening her charm into a weapon, and I'm just trying to get through the day. Is this really who we are? Vera sniffled. Jolene looked down at the table, ashamed. "This diner, this little family we have, is more important than $500 and a picture in the paper," Alice continued. "We're a team. We've always been a team." The truth in her words was undeniable. The frost between them melted, replaced by regretful apologies. "I have an idea," Vera said, her eyes brightening. "What if we're all on the same team?" An hour later, they presented Mel with a large manila envelope. Inside were all their comment cards bundled together with a rubber band. Attached was a single new nomination form. In the space for waitress's name, they had neatly printed Alice, Jolene, and Vera, the waitresses of Mel's Diner. A few weeks later, the results were published. They didn't win Waitress of the Year. The honor went to a hyper-professional waitress from a downtown hotel. Alice vaguely wondered if it was Agnes. But as they scanned the article, they saw a small, separate box near the bottom. It was titled "Special Commendation for Team Spirit." The article mentioned a unique joint submission from a local establishment called Mel's Diner. The judges, it said, were so impressed by the gesture of unity that they had created a one-time only award for Best Ensemble in a Diner. The following Monday, a small, unassuming plaque arrived in the mail. Mel grumbled about where he was supposed to hang it, but Alice saw him polishing it with the edge of his apron when he thought no one was looking. He finally hung it on the wall right behind the cash register, a place no customer could miss. It wasn't a prize for being the best, the most efficient, or the most charming. It was a prize for being a team. For Alice, Vera, and Jolene standing shoulder to shoulder behind the counter during another chaotic lunch rush, it was the only award that ever really mattered. Chapter 12, The Ghost of a Greener Lawn. The small plaque for Best Ensemble in a Diner became a new fixture, a silent testament to the chaotic harmony of Mel's. For a while, it seemed to ward off any significant drama. The weeks that followed were a pleasant hum of routine. Alice gracefully balanced her life between the diner and the Starlight Lounge. Mel's temper remained at a manageable simmer, and the most pressing issue was a heated debate between Earl and Vera about whether a canary could be trained to take phone messages. It was a peaceful, deceptive calm. The calm was shattered on a Tuesday morning by the arrival of a man who did not belong. He was tall, dressed in a tailored suit, and carried a leather briefcase. He stepped inside and surveyed the diner not with the hunger of a customer, but with the critical eye of an appraiser. His gaze swept over the cracked vinyl booths and the Formica countertops before finally landing on Alice. A flicker of recognition followed by a polite, strained smile crossed his face. "Alice, Alice Hyatt," he asked, his voice smooth and confident. Alice looked up from the coffee pot she was holding. Her own smile faltered for a second as she placed him. Philip Hyatt. My goodness, what on earth are you doing in Phoenix? He was Philip, her late husband Donald's younger brother, the successful one. The one who had become a corporate lawyer, married his college sweetheart, and settled in a pristine Chicago suburb with 2 perfect children and a dog. He was the living embodiment of the life that was supposed to have been hers. "I'm in town for a conference at the Biltmore," he explained, walking toward her. "I couldn't come all this way without checking in on my favorite sister-in-law and my nephew, of course. How is Tommy?" The reunion was a clumsy affair, a mix of genuine surprise and a thick undercurrent of awkwardness. Alice introduced him to a curious Vera and Jolene, and to a suspicious Mel, who eyed Philip's expensive suit as if it were a personal insult. Philip was perfectly cordial, but there was a subtle condescension in the way he called the diner charming and full of character, using the words as synonyms for small and run down. That evening, Philip insisted on taking Alice and Tommy to dinner at a steakhouse, where the menus were heavy and the waiters wore tuxedos. The contrast with Mel's was jarring. Over a meal that cost more than Alice's weekly tips, Philip began to gently probe his questions wrapped in a veneer of familial concern. "So, Tommy," he began thinking about high school yet. "The prep school my Andrew goes to has a fantastic science program. We should talk about applications." "And Alice," he said, turning to her, "this singing gig sounds wonderful, a really great hobby. But the diner, you must be working so hard. It can't be easy doing it all on your own." Every word was a carefully placed stone building a wall of doubt around the life Alice had so painstakingly constructed. The next day, he took Tommy out, just the 2 of them, to a spring training baseball game, sitting in box seats. He spoke to Tommy about his own life, about the opportunities his children had, about the importance of a stable foundation. That evening, he came to Alice's small apartment and laid his cards on the table. "Alice, I'm worried about Tommy," he began, his voice a carefully modulated symphony of sincerity. "He's a brilliant kid. He deserves the best. My Andrew is his age, and they'd get along famously. Our school districts are one of the best in the state. He could have his own room, a big backyard, a structured environment, a stable male role model." Alice felt a cold dread creep up her spine. "Philip, what are you saying?" "I'm saying you should let him come live with me and my family in Illinois," he said, delivering the line with the calm certainty of a man who believed he was offering an irrefutable gift. "I know how hard you work. Let me help. Let us give him the leg up he deserves. It would be for his own good." The offer was a physical blow. It was an insult to her parenting, her choices, her entire existence. A hot, angry retort rose in her throat, but it was choked by a sudden icy wave of self-doubt. Was he right? She looked around her small, tidy living room at the second-hand furniture and the stack of bills on the desk. She thought of the long hours, the exhaustion, the constant worry about money. Was she being selfish, keeping her son in this chaotic hand-to-mouth life when a perfect, prepackaged future was being offered on a silver platter? The ghost of that greener lawn haunted her. She went to work the next day in a fog of turmoil. Her smile was brittle, her movements distracted. Jolene found her staring into a pot of coffee as if it held the secrets of the universe. "She button, what's wrong?" Jolene asked gently. "You look like your puppy just ran away." The dam broke. Alice told them everything, the dinner, the offer, her own crippling doubt. The reaction from her diner family was immediate and fierce. "Why, that man's got more nerve than a toothache." Jolene declared, her southern accent thickening with indignation. "A big house doesn't make a home. Tommy has a home right here." Vera insisted, her hands on her hips. "He has a mother who loves him, and he has us. We're his aunts. We teach him important things." Mel, who had been silently listening from the kitchen pass-through, stormed out, wiping his hands on his apron. His face was a thundercloud. "That pinstripe pencil pusher doesn't know the first thing about raising a kid," he growled, his voice a low rumble. "A kid doesn't need a bigger lawn. He needs love. He needs to see his mother working hard for a dream. And this place," he gestured around the chaotic diner, "this place has love. Even if it is covered in grease." Their unwavering support was an anchor in her sea of doubt. It didn't erase her fears, but it reminded her of what she was fighting for. She realized she had been so consumed with her own feelings that she had overlooked the most important opinion of all. That night, she sat down with Tommy. With a steady voice, she laid out Philip's offer, presenting it as fairly as she could: the big house, the great school, the opportunities. Tommy listened patiently, his young face serious. "Uncle Philip's house is nice," he said when she was finished. "His TV is huge." He paused. "But it's really quiet there, and kind of boring." He looked at his mom. "Why would I want to leave you? And Mel's, I like it here. Earl teaches me betting odds, and Vera showed me how to make a swan out of a napkin, and Mel lets me restock the ketchup even though he yells about it." He gave her a small, wise smile. "My life is more interesting than Andrew's." It was that simple. Her son, her smart, perceptive son, understood completely. The life they had wasn't a consolation prize. It was a rich, vibrant, and unique adventure. The next afternoon, Alice asked Philip to meet her at the diner during the slow period between lunch and dinner. He sat in a booth, looking out of place and expectant. "Philip, thank you for your offer," she began, her voice calm and clear. "It was generous, but our answer is no." "Alice, be reasonable," he started. "I am being reasonable," she interrupted, holding up a hand. "You see a single mom working in a diner and you see a struggle. And you're not wrong, it is a struggle sometimes. But you're not seeing the whole picture. You see a small apartment. I see a home filled with love. You see a dead-end job. I see a family that supports me while I chase my dream of singing." She gestured around the empty diner. "This place, these people, they are Tommy's community. He is learning about hard work, kindness, and resilience. He is learning that a family isn't defined by a last name or a big house, but by the people who show up for you. I am not failing him, Philip. I am teaching him what's truly important, and I wouldn't trade that for all the green lawns in Illinois."